Hey everyone, this is Dr. Baron Grutter. In this video, I'm just going to make a real quick video. There's lots of noise in the background. I apologize. I just want to get this video out quickly. So this is a quick tutorial, just a little idea that I came up with this week for a patient. She came in with a vertical root fracture on tooth number 4, her upper right. Well, 4, 5, hard to say for certain, but we're going to go ahead and assume it was 4, her upper right second premolar. She's had some ortho extractions. Anyway, so yeah, I found out, or I was just kind of thinking about this and came up with a way to make a flipper while designing my surgical guide in Blue Sky Plan. That's the reason I have Blue Sky Plan in the open in the background. So I was able to do this, and honestly, it takes an extra maybe 5 minutes if you're already doing design the surgical guide, which is so cool. And it doesn't cost you anything because it won't cost you any more in exports than what you're already using for the surgical guide itself. So I'm going to go ahead with no further ado. I'm going to jump into this. So right now we've got the, I'll just go ahead and call this the maxilla, and this one down here is the mandible. So we're going to be doing a lot of duplicating. We're going to be making duplicates of the model so that we have this as our original. We can always go back to it if we screw something up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this guy, and I'm going to just name this edent because I'm going to edentulate the space in a moment. So let's go ahead and turn off, oops, I renamed the mandible. Mandible, and we're going to turn off the mandible. We don't need that right now. And we're going to call this, we'll just leave it maxilla edent. Hypothetically, you could be doing upper and lower, so we'll just keep it clean. Okay, so now let's turn this one off. And what we have to do is, if you're going to be doing a surgical guide, you're going to be cutting this tooth out, so that you can, virtually extract it. Now, I'm actually going to duplicate this tooth. This tooth is going to be part of my flipper. So since this is a vertical root fracture, you can see the fracture down the middle. I'm going to fix this first. So this might be a handy little tip for you in general. We're in the model editing module. I'm going to go to model edit. I'm going to turn on my selection brush, and I'm going to come over top of this, and I'm going to make sure it's a little bit bigger because this is not to be perfect. And I'm just going to kind of highlight right across here. Okay, again, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is just going to be a flipper. Just making sure that we've got it pretty clean around here. Maybe that was a little too aggressive. All right, and there we go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut that area. I'm going to come down here to select holes manually because we're going to fill this hole. And we're only going to fix this one. We don't want to fix the whole base. That would just be annoying. And so we're going to close this selected hole. There you go. So now it's been filled in. Doesn't be perfect, but this will work. So now we're done with that. What we now need to do is we need to get ready to edentulate this tooth and remove this tooth. So once again, we're going to use the selection brush. And I don't want this very big, okay? You can zoom in or you can adjust the size with your wheel. So I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to highlight. Now I'm going to try to stay more on the tissue and the neighboring teeth than on the actual tooth. Not completely. I really want to get both, honestly. But more than anything, especially interproximally, we want to hit the neighboring tooth. I don't really have time in this video necessarily to go through why that is, but it will cause issues with the edentulous space if you don't do that. So just take my word for it. You want to sort of fall on the neighboring tooth a little bit anytime you're doing a virtual extraction, this technique or not. Okay, so remember this part right here, you'd be doing this regardless. If you had an edentulous space, you could actually do the same technique, but just throw in a virtual tooth. But we're going to do this right here. All right, so we've got that selected. Now we're going to go ahead and say cut selected area. Now here's the difference. Normally we would also delete this tooth and we would heal this. That's fine. But first what I want you to do is I want you to take this model, this edent model, and we're going to duplicate it again. And this one, I'm going to call tooth. Okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and, oh, did I do it again? I did. Why do I keep doing that? This one, tooth. Okay, so you can see that they're the same thing, both of these models. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the isolate button. Right now I'm on the tooth model. Make sure you know which one you're on. Isolate, and I'm going to click right on the tooth part. Okay. Now, if I turn that off, or if I turn this off, you can see that all I have is the tooth remaining there. So now I'm going to select the edent one. I'm going to click on the arch. So now one is the tooth, one is just the ridge. So now I'm going to come over here, I'm going to go to Model Edit, and I'm going to click Select Holes Manually. Which one am I on? I'm on the edent one, so that's the model. I'm going to select this perimeter, and I'm going to say Close Selected Holes. Okay, so now it's got a little, ovate Pontic site, kind of ovate. Now, you can always adjust that later if you want. And now I'm going to select the tooth one, and I'm going to say Select Holes Manually. Click on this and say Close Selected Holes. So if you look, I've created a little denture tooth. There's a space here, that's fine, and it's even emerging into there. There's ways you can adjust that. You can use the smoothing or the add and remove. Honestly, I'm not too worried about it because it's an edentulous space. We don't know how it's going to fill out. You may have to adjust it in the chair side, but again, there's going to be a tooth miss in there. So now I'm going to go ahead over here and I'm going to change some colors so it's a little more obvious. Let's make the tooth, I don't know, yellow. And let's make the edentulous model red. I don't really know why, but let's just do it. Okay, so now I can hide this tooth, and now you're saying, okay, well, I'm ready. I can make my surgical guide. You're absolutely right. You can make your surgical guide. In fact, I've got an implant already planned for this case. I'm not going to go ahead and show you that whole process, but I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Here it is. There's the indent. So, and I'm going to call this one Framework. Because this one is the one I'm going to draw my surgical guide on, but this one, let's make this orange, is the one I'm going to make my flipper on. So my framework. So I'm going to come over to Advanced, the surgical guide Advanced, so I can make my actual my framework for the partial. On the guide panel, I'm making sure I'm on the orange one. Hit Draw Curve, and now I'm just going to click here, here. I'm recording a video, buddy. I'm at home right now, if you hadn't guessed. Nope. Okay, and we're just going to kind of come up into the embrasures. You don't have to be perfect about this, but the idea is we want it to be, nice and well interdigitated, because this is how it's going to click in. It's going to click in and out of the mouth, just like that one I showed in that picture. Molars, I tend to do 2 little spots on the lingual just because they're a little more broad. And now, I'm just going to come around here. Normally I like to have the whole palette when I'm doing a case where I'm going to make just so I have more freedom. But this one fortunately worked out where when they did scan it, they did go ahead and get more on this area, which I want a little extra reinforcement because there could be some chewing happen on this. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the surgical guide. Now here's the thing. I don't want this to be too thick. I want it to be a little bit flexible. So if you click on this little wheel right here, I can change it to 1.5, and I've already done it. For this case, it's going to remain 1.5. Now, when I make the surgical guide, I want to bump it back up to 3 millimeters, which is the default. So that is the one thing you have to be careful of. But I can click Create Surgical Guide. No, I don't want to show the guide tubes. So it's going to make a surgical guide that's just fitting right in here. So if you think about it, all I've done that I wouldn't have normally done was I healed the underside of that tooth, made some duplicate models, and have drawn this. That's the only extra work. Everything else I would have had to do anyways. So lastly, I can turn on the tooth, and you say, okay, this is my flipper. Now, that'll work. But I would suggest you go ahead and turn on the mandible, and so that you can see where is it going to impinge. Okay? This is, in this case, these are the areas that actually got me the most. So let's go ahead and go back to the Model Edit module, Model Edit, and I'm going to go to the smoothing or add remove, and I'm going to make sure right now, what am I on? I'm on the blue one. Okay, the blue one I'm going to adjust first. Hold the Shift button. Oh, sorry, Control button to remove. Shift is to add. It's better if you can look right down on it if possible. Sometimes you'll use a mixture of the smooth and the remove. And so I've got all the blue gone. I don't see it anywhere else. And now I'm going to go to the tooth, and I'm going to do the same thing. Holding the control button and smoothing that away. All right, so now let's turn off the mandible, and there we go. If you don't like this spackling, which whatever, it's not going to matter. I can go back and I can smooth this. Oh, I'm in the wrong model. Just anything you don't like, it's pushing up too far, whatever, that's fine. But anyway, keep in mind, this has undercuts built in by a default of 0.1 millimeters. Okay? The path of insertion was the, so the allow undercuts a default of 0.1. I didn't change the path of insertion because it just works on this one and this tooth, but you can always change it if you want to. But here you go. Again, what did I do that was additional work? Well, I had to cut out the tooth. I didn't delete the old tooth, and I healed the bottom of it. Okay, that takes all of 2 seconds to press the button twice as opposed to just once for the model. Once for the model, once for the tooth. I duplicated the model a couple times and renamed it. Okay, there's another 10 to 15 seconds, so let's say 30 seconds for duplicating some models here and there. And lastly, I drew a new surgical guide for this, which, okay, takes a minute to draw that outline and click that button. And then lastly, I just smooth out the areas that were high occlusion. So again, I think 2 minutes is a high estimation. And I will tell you, just like the picture I showed, it worked beautifully. I mean, it's not perfect because I only had A1 material to print with, and I should have done A2. She's coming back in next week. I'm going to go ahead and debulk a little bit of the buccal where it sticks out a little more. That's because the vertical root fracture, the tooth was just sticking out far. It actually doesn't look bad in the occlusal, but again, that's nothing to do with a problem with it. That was just, whatever. I'll debulk that, I'll repolish it. And also, I've got another video I'm going to make next week on how to polish these super cheaply and easily and predictably. I was really surprised at something I figured out this week. Just a specific brush that just did a beautiful job with it. But anyway, yeah, hopefully that helps. You can, provide these, short-term, these temporary measures for your patients that aren't so excited about losing a tooth. And yeah, it doesn't cost me any more because I'm already going to be exporting the guide anyways. So what you want to do, let me get back to that. When it's time to export this, you don't worry about merging them. There's ways you can do that. You can go to the Crown and Bridge module, but you're just going to go to File, Export Data, and then I don't have any exports on this device right now, but you're just going to select, easiest way is just to turn off everything else. So just this is visible. So when you hit export data, it's only going to have those two things. When you go to print it, the printer does not care that these are two separate objects. So long as on the export window you don't have the button that says export as separate objects to a folder, just export them as one thing. The software will not care. Okay? All right, well, I certainly hope this video was helpful. Be sure to, if you wouldn't mind, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see any new videos that come out, and be sure to check out my Facebook, Barengrutter DDS, and Instagram, Barengrutter DDS, and as well, my website, barengrutterDDS.com, where I've got a few hundred videos like this. All right, thank you so much. You guys have a good day.